Hey, I'm Drew, and this is the Drew Peterson Podcast, home to one chairlift ride, ski pole microphone, and real story at a time. This week's chairlift chat is actually on a gondola, so it's more of a gondola gab, if you will. And it's with Tim Tollefson. Now, personally, I've admired Tim for years, not just because he is one of the most accomplished American ultrarunners of the modern era, but also because he's a thoughtful, genuine human being who's been open about his journey with eating disorder recovery and with mental health. Now, Tim, as a runner, has an absolutely stacked resume. He placed third at UTMB in 2017, which at the time was the highest result by an American man. He's got multiple finishes at Western States, including a top 5 in 2021, as well as wins at races including the Javelina Jundred, Lavaredo 120K, Ultra Trail Australia, and the Canyons 50K, and more. Beyond racing, Tim is also the founder and race director of Mammoth Trailfest and the Mammoth 200. I'm especially excited to share this episode as part of the podcast launch because it hits on two of the core pillars of what I'm trying to create here. One, open conversations on mental health. And two, conversations that go well beyond sport, certainly beyond skiing and beyond running too. Before we drop in, quick note from this episode's sponsor. We hear mental health awareness all the time. But awareness doesn't just mean knowing something exists. It means wanting to engage and do something about it. So my definition of mental health awareness is giving a fuck. I started making these I give a fuck about mental health hats to fund my last film, Feel It All, about mental health. And ever since then, I've been receiving messages from people, not just that they're their favorite hats, but that they've really been helping start conversations and create space for real, honest vulnerability. That's pretty awesome that can just come from a hat. Now, behind the scenes, I've been working to turn I Give a Fuck About Mental Health into more of a standalone brand so that it can help more people. So stay tuned for more of that. But in the meantime, I wanted to offer you as a listener an exclusive discount on the hats. So you can grab one of these OG hats using code POD20 for 20% off at checkout. And that is, of course, in the show notes and just about everywhere else. All right, let's raise the bar, keep your tips up, and drop in. All right, Tim, first gondola episode. First episode of a not primary sport being skier, and first person wearing split shorts for an episode. So welcome to the pod.
You're saying I'm not a professional skier? What's the dead giveaway? Yeah, I love the first. Stoked to be here.
So we are at Mammoth, your home where you've created Trailfest. But today I want to talk to you mostly about the mental health side of things, the body image side of things. 3 years ago in 2022, you put out a film titled What Goes Unsaid. And in my opinion, you really broke open the conversation around body image and disordered eating for men. What's that experience like when you look back to that exact moment of putting that out in the world?
I remember learning when it was going to go live, and I went for a run because I didn't want to be around my phone. And I got back, and my phone had blown up, and I was terrified to open it just because all of my fears and anxieties were wrapped up into like what people would be thinking about it. That's deeply what I struggled with in general. And it's the initial thing of throwing it out in the world was I just wanted to hide more. Like I wanted to dive deeper into the hole I had just come out of. But as I started like meeting people in real life and seeing them and strangers, it started to remind me of like why I did it and why not only did I need to do that, but it, has resonate with people. And it's really opened my eyes to how deeply connected we are and how not alone I was in that journey. I'd say that was kind of the biggest takeaway of like, I thought I was the only person that had ever had that thought, ever tried to do those things to myself, whatever. And the reality is it's such a common it's part of the human condition in some degree. And the fact that we were too afraid to talk about it is what made me feel more shame and more like I want to just go back into a hole. So it took me a little while, but I obviously like even to this day, I don't know, that was a few years ago. Like I continually meet strangers that like we're immediately on a deeper plane where we can connect and have a conversation about something. And I'm so grateful for that.
I resonate with that a ton. Every like my big launches of like the 2 films that I've put out about mental health, and I wrote an essay for Outside Magazine when I published that about mental health. I did the exact same thing. I 2 of them were in the summer, so 2 of them I went for a run, and 1 of them was in the winter, and I went for a solo ski tour and turned off my phone, and then was overwhelmed by the response. I'm interested though, like when you started to feel less alone as a result of that, while that largely came from in-person experience, was there a moment like digitally where you were able to appreciate the like magnitude and like the kind of like volume of people who it resonated with?
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a particular moment, but I really was just, I think I was deeply like impacted positively from the number of men that would reach out. They would slide into my DMs, and but then also like parents of children in high school dealing especially with eating disorders, boys and girls, and that really hit home of just thinking of like, okay, the widespread impact of this and what hopefully will help change the narrative and start conversations so that other kids, not that they won't go through similar things, but that they will have resources and feel hopefully empowered enough to like have a conversation before it gets, irreversible. And I think that's probably something that really struck me, and still to this day kind of sticks in my mind, is like just the reach it had with parents and men. It's I think I wasn't expecting that necessarily. I was expecting other like pro runners maybe, or like, but just the widespread kind of unfortunate like tentacles that that mental health discussion has in almost every domain or every discipline or every corner of the world. It really struck home that like, wow, it's pervasive and it's something that we need to continue to talk about.
Definitely. Let's talk about that piece of connecting with men, because that's definitely resonates with me, like in terms of like looking up to your story, and then also in my own experience of sharing my own personal story. Like I've been shocked by the number of men it reaches and the magnitude of that connection. Like before you put it out there, were there any men who you looked up to in that way in terms of vulnerability or talking about disordered eating or body image?
No, I really look to women in the sport and in the space. I could name off dozens of different individuals that reading their pieces or blogs or videos that may have come out, or a podcast I could get my ears on. I took a lot of, I think, support from their voice, knowing that I wasn't alone, but I still thought I was alone in the male category. And I think something especially in the sport of endurance or endurance sports, like running in particular, like all my competitors or people I looked up to, and since putting that out, I've had conversations with them, and it's not surprising that a lot of them had to some degree, intrusive thoughts or disordered eating, maybe not eating disorder, but they've had things that they struggled with. And it was all part of that guise of, we got to be tough. We can't show emotion. We can't really show vulnerability. So I didn't really have a role model to look at. And I hope that continues to change.
Definitely. It is changing. Yeah. You're changing it. It's, I resonate with that as well. Like I remembered when Amelia Boone published her essay about her eating disorder recovery, and that resonated deeply. And not just like on the like eating disorder side, because that's not something that I like directly identify with, but that vulnerability helped me make sense and feel less alone from a mental health perspective. And you provided me that as well. And I think that you are having an impact beyond just like the exact scenario that will resonate with people. I want to ask you a very small question that should be super easy to answer, because you didn't know how widely felt these issues were for men. How widely felt are these topics and issues for men, whether you want to answer that as the mental health struggles or body dysmorphia or anything along the spectrum?
Oh, I mean, I think it goes it goes far and wide. To actually kind of what you just said though, I was shocked as I kind of opened up and started talking, like how just the common thread of struggle has been impactful. Or maybe it might get a little too loud.
Let's wait.
Okay.
Let's stick with that note of struggle.
Yeah. What's up, dude?
Oh, the runner.
Wait, no, look, dude, I got boots on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
That'll make it in the pod.
Yeah.
No, we're good.
Well, I'm finding as people reach out that it is a wide, pervasive issue, but it's getting less, which I'm really happy about. I came up from a generation of skinny was fast, and now we're changing that narrative, like strong is fast. And, to be resilient and to have a long career, you can't compromise your body. You can't change your body to meet the demands of sport. You really need to let your body adapt to the demands of sport. And with good guidance, with good coaching, good mentors, we're seeing that narrative shift. But it is still prevalent, and especially in areas where you have toxic cultures, and that could be just from individuals or a group, like, from the high school level, collegiate ranks. But I do see the narrative shifting, which is really happy. Like, I mean, that warms my heart, because I just think of the conversations I had with teammates in high school, and I'm too embarrassed to even share them. Like, and I would hope that's not the case anymore, 20 years out.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is certainly changing, and you have a very unique lens on that. I think I want to pull this back to community. Like, this is all built on connection. When you put that film out, I believe that the first line of it is, and correct me if I get this wrong, that your whole life you've been running towards community. How does that resonate now, in this sense that you're building community and an opportunity for connection on a deeper level that goes beyond running?
What a generous question. Hearing you say that, it kind of makes me sad, in the sense of, if I reflect on my career, I was part of the community the entire time. I just didn't recognize that. And I would hope that others, and that's something we try to do with Trailfest, is I want everyone to feel welcomed. I want everyone to feel important. I want everyone to be celebrated. And those that are questioning or doubting themselves, hopefully it can be a little reminder or a seed of kind of inspiration that, hey, someone does care about me, and like, I am important, and I do need to be here. And so I really try to, like, check everything we do with Trailfest through that lens of, okay, how do we make people feel like they belong? Because they do belong. And I don't think you need to earn that belonging. We inherently belong, but we have to remind ourselves that we belong, because society and culture and others will tell us that we don't belong. And the social media driven age is divisive and designed to pull us apart. But I think anytime we have the opportunity to actually connect, be in person, you're reminded of the fact that I don't have to do anything. I can just be, and that's enough.
It goes all the way right back to the beginning when you said putting out the film, that it was in-person connection that actually was made you feel less alone. What in that makes you feel like you belong now?
I think I still have to remind myself, and as you know, like, recovery is a habit, and it's a muscle you have to exercise and work on. It's like training for an ultra. And so I have daily practices, and I have things that I continually come back to, especially when I have those thoughts creep up that say, oh, you don't belong. Like, you're not this, you're not that. You need to be better. But I'm getting better now of recognizing that. And then the more I connect with people and hear their stories or see them have experiences, it helps me really get outside of my own head and recognize that, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's not about me, and it's like about that shared experience. And I get excited about allowing others to have that. And so I think it's the combination of, like, having a better toolkit to recognize when I get into these looped patterns in my head, and then also showing up and being with people. And that really challenges the thoughts, the anxieties and the fears that are unchecked in my head when I don't meet people. Because when you stay at home or you're in your little bubble, that runs wild. But when you go out and you're like, you recognize, wow, none of my fears came true, then it like you build on that each experience. So I think just actually like challenging myself to get in front of people is like, I'm in the, like, I mean, I'm very outgoing, but I'm also like introverted. And so it's this weird blend. And as you have mentioned, which I love the term of this toxic positivity, like, oh man, when I heard you say that, that hit deep because it's like, that's one of the biggest masks I wore like my entire life. Because everyone, you see this happy-go-lucky person is like, of course they couldn't be struggling. They got it all figured out. But it's like underneath, you don't know what's actually happening.
Yeah. And now you get to feel the smile that you're putting out there. I also hear the magic in living of service to others in that answer. What do you feel like you're able to provide others that you weren't provided from other people? You can also tell me you already answered it.
No, I mean, I don't know, but I would hope I can provide a non-judgmental ear for someone just to talk to. And while I had people like that in my life, I didn't feel comfortable or safe enough personally to reach out to those people. So in a sense, it felt like I didn't have those people, but hopefully I can be that space for someone because I know the power of just a conversation or someone to listen and how that can really allow enough space for me to let a thought that's very dangerous start to subside. And if that can be something of service that I provide to someone else, like I want to continually cultivate that and make sure that I'm open to people if they need that.
Definitely. I also hear coming through how taking care of yourself is important so that you can take care of other people and keep creating that space and stay true to the community you're building. What does you said that recovery is a habit. What does that habit look like nowadays? And what does your continued recovery look like?
I wish I could say I have it like on point and like I'm a pro recoverer, but the reality is I end up overcommitting and then I forget things. But I'd say the things that I really come back to are like a gratitude journal. I think that's very powerful. I try to meditate. I'm not the best at that, but what I've recognized is meditation actually for me is in motion. And so running is a meditative process. I can't sit still with my thoughts, but I can run and be still with my thoughts often. And so I guess in that sense, I've leaned into it. I have intermittent bouts with like committed therapy versus just kind of check-ins. Pharmacology. It's I've used SSRIs. So I think it's kind of a blend, but really trying to choose a few that I know I can do regularly, and that's really like gratitude journaling. Trying to let like thoughts pass over and like not react to them. And so it's I think trying to just sit with feelings and not numb them is something that like is probably one of the bigger ones.
Dude, that resonates. Like, I feel like you keep saying this. Like, we have like a very, very similar toolkit and like consistent daily practices. And when I get off of them, I feel myself getting off, from a big picture standpoint too. With that gratitude practice, have you already gratitude journaled today? And if you have, what was something on there?
No, calling me out in the best way.
It's okay. I didn't this morning either. I'm gonna do it this evening.
Yeah.
But what's gonna make it on the list today?
Oh. Spending time with like-minded people and being able to connect on a deep level. I'm full of gratitude for this opportunity to meet you, listen to your story last night, and then hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, I know this is going to be the start of like a relationship. So that's going to be one. Being out here in the Eastern Sierra on a beautiful bluebird day, watching other people enjoy themselves in the mountains. I mean, that's honestly something I love, just seeing other people explore the mountains. And then the third is our fire that is just north of us, our neighbors in Redefining. They're starting to get a better handle of that, and the communities, the evacuation order was lifted. So I'm very grateful for that.
A lot of good things in there. And you already made it on my gratitude list earlier this week when our mutual friend Corinne Malcolm connected us, because I knew that we were going to connect on a deep level and that this would be the start of a friendship. So you're already on there. Not to fanboy too hard, but then another thing in that toolkit is the term I use, is running as a meditative practice. I guess, like, first off, I heard somebody say this just this past week, and I've really been noodling on it, especially when I'm running, that we are our most mindful selves when we're having fun. Does that resonate?
Absolutely. I think you probably, when you're having fun, is when you're most present. And if you think about a moment in your life where you truly laughed unapologetically, like from deep in your belly, you weren't thinking about fears and anxieties and what people might think of you, and what's coming up or what happened, and guilting over it. So I think, yeah, that's rooted in joy and fun. And that was something I found, actually, it was scary, like through my journey before asking for help, was like I was forgetting how to have fun. And I didn't realize it until like really kind of stepping back, but I could fake the fun, but it wasn't real fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can only fake it for so long, and it's kind of the same thing of when you're putting that smile outwards. It might not be a smile inwards, even though you like want it to be, or like you're like, I should be having fun right now. But there's a saying, don't should all over yourself.
I like that.
When you started speaking out publicly on all these things, I also remember you saying that you started running maybe without your phone, but at least without headphones a lot more than you previously were. What's your relationship with running with your phone or running with headphones now?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I've been back to multitasking and running with my phone, and I have found this correlation. The more I do that, the less fun and the less enjoyable running becomes. And literally this morning, I went without my phone, nothing, and it was one of the most calming, relaxing, and enjoyable runs I've had in a few weeks. And that was a powerful reminder of, like, running can just be running. And I think part of it was I was trying to cram things. I was listening to business podcasts and trying to figure out how to do Trailfest better, and learn about these things, or mental health journeys. And it just becomes overwhelming and like overstimulating. And so, yeah, like unpacking and actually just like listening to my breath, or feeling each foot strike, and hearing, the rattlesnake that I almost stepped on, like that's a really nice thing to have. And so I think it was a good, powerful reminder of like breaking the cycle, so the cycle doesn't keep breaking us. And I didn't even recognize or appreciate that I was running with my phone every single day, listening to podcasts again, until I suddenly stopped. And so I think that goes into just like a daily check-in, like a little inventory of like, what you're prioritizing, or your gratitude journal. And it's so yeah, I'm trying to do less of that, but I'm human.
We all are. I go in waves too.
Yeah.
I'm finding that not just like running without headphones, but actually running like without my phone, like not even having my phone in my belt, like has a dramatic impact on me. Like the just not even having like an inclination of like I could check and see if I got a reply to that email, because like oftentimes I run like in the middle of a workday, like to not have that in my brain at all, like totally changes the experience and like adds a real depth to it. I feel like a lot of like what I've sought out in life is creating more of a depth of experience, whether that be running or connection, friendship, relationships.
Yeah.
Something that you said earlier to kind of like pull things back to was that the other kind of like population that you were surprised by or impacted by how they connected with your story, beyond men, were the parents of kids. Did you expect that? And or to what level did you expect that? And then also, were you struggling with these things when you were a little kid? And is that why it was so dramatic for you?
I was not expecting that. And the first few parents that reached out, I honestly was a little uncomfortable because I don't feel like I'm in a position to like really guide or educate children. And I'm not. But what was neat about that was it was just having a conversation with the parents of like how they can find resources and the people that they need to talk to help their kid. And also, I mean, as an example of like, they can have their kid look at maybe myself or others as like, you know, someone that is approaching this and it's less taboo and it's not something to be full of, you know, harbor shame around. So I think there's that. I definitely had, you know, a lot of signs as a kid in different forms and fashions, especially of like my OCD kind of struggles. OCD can come in a lot of different like actual, I guess, diagnosable forms. But yeah, there were some things, and actually, like to my parents' credit, attended therapy as like a young kid because they were seeing that I was struggling with things. But I think even at that age, like 6 or 7, I was learning how to mask and adapt and highlight that I was okay. And I clearly remember going to therapy and begging them not to tell my siblings I went to therapy because I just thought it was wrong, for some reason. And I don't know where that thought came from, but there was this like deep insecurity of what people thought of me. And so, yeah, there were a lot of things early. And then in high school, definitely like as I struggled to fit in, things were just amplified. And then getting into endurance sports. And as I said, back in the early aughts, like 2000, it was a very toxic culture in endurance sports. Like people openly talked about like, you know, eating disorders not being a bad thing, essentially. Like it was pervasive. It was gross. And, thankfully like my coaches weren't doing that, but people around me were talking about that. And you're very impressionable at that age. And I was a sponge and I wanted to fit in. And when you want to fit in, you'll do anything. And so like, I saw those low-hanging fruits as opportunities to actually like, be one in the crowd. And the sad thing is that the more I got deeply into what I thought was the inner circle, like the worse my struggles became. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And
totally makes sense too, like why you'd assimilate into a culture, whether it's directly fed to you or if it's just what you know. A lot of what's coming through, overall in this interview and just like getting to know you is also like building a wider identity of who you are beyond being, just a runner, just a professional runner. What do you think that impact has had on you of building more of an identity? And do you think there's a lesson in there for others?
Absolutely. Isn't it funny that we strive so bad to fit in, but then almost once you fit in, you want to be so different. Yeah. And it's, my entire life, all I wanted to be was a runner because I felt like that was my path to acceptance. And obviously the irony is I was a runner every moment in that journey, but it's, I've really found that the multifaceted being that I am is something that I'm more proud of than any individual accolade or career as a whole that I've had as a runner. And I think we all want to be special. And what makes us special is the uniqueness and the kind of like the multitudes that we all harbor as part of our like self schema. And so, yeah, I think that as I've leaned into these other aspects of Tim as the runner, I've been so much more fulfilled and appreciate not only the relationships and the opportunities that it's opened, but like it makes me also love that identity of a runner more, but I hold it gently. It's not something that I was like strangling to hold on to and I didn't want to lose it. And that fear led me into a lot of toxic and self-harming behaviors that, I compromised a lot of success in my career as a result of that. And it's funny because running was the only thing I cared about for like 15 years. And because I cared so deeply, I actually like limited my running potential.
That feels like a really beautiful place to end all of this and go ski in some shorts.
We're at 11,053 feet. Let's hit it.
Oh, that was seriously beautiful though. Yeah.
It was actually kind of nice that we got stopped all those times.
Yeah, it was awesome. That's the longest episode I've done yet. Your joy in your running is like a gravitational pull to people. And I think that who you are as a broader human being and like not just that identity piece, but like seeing your self-worth grow is a far greater gravitational pull and you're a bigger planet now.
Oh. Thanks, dude.
Thanks to Tim for joining me for a little gondola gab. Now, my greatest takeaway from that conversation personally was that for all of us and for Tim, recovery is an ongoing practice. I also loved that connection was the antidote to isolation and to thought spirals for him. And I say that because that's something that I definitely have to continue learning and that I need to hear and I need to say out loud. I've also been having a broader reflection that Tim is just an awesome example of what healthy masculinity actually looks like. He's strong, he's vulnerable, and he lifts other people up. And he's the kind of male role model who I want, and not just for myself, but also for society. Thanks to this episode's sponsor, I Give a Fuck About Mental Health. It's pretty cool to get to use these little hats as a way to make this podcast possible and to continue these conversations about mental health. You can follow Tim on Instagram at Tim Tollefson, and you can check out his races at mammothtrailfest.com as well as themammoth200.com. Now, I really appreciate you being here and checking out the podcast from the beginning. So you're with me for figuring out the spiel here too. So to check out what's coming next with the show, follow me on Instagram at Drew Peterski, subscribe to the show's newsletter via Substack, and then also subscribe or follow wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. All right, spiel's getting better. That's it for this ride. Thanks for listening to the Drew Peterson podcast. Until next run, keep your tips up. Ski and enjoy, my friends. And for this one, run and enjoy, my friends.